This is Underdog Portfolio Weekly, hosted by Scott Con.
What is good, everyone? Welcome back to another Underdog Portfolio Weekly. Took a week off for the 4th of July, and we're back with another live draft. You know him, Dwain McFarland, the best in the business during the season at breaking down usage and communicating it to the masses in a, I won't give you credit for a 1 hour show, Dwayne. Usually they go like 2.5 hours sometimes when you do your recap shows during the season on Fantasy Life. But yeah, happy to be drafting with you, man. Bestball Mania 5, live draft 7.0 Underdog Portfolio Weekly. And unlike the others, we are going against each other. Ray and I have done a ton against each other on Destination Chill, but this is the first one where I'm going against my opponents head to head. We did a couple where they were 3 of us, but hopefully you got in. And how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm in. I have picked 12. Where are you?
All right, so you are at 12. I am at 4. And
okay, good. We're on opposite ends. I see you.
We are on opposite ends, and Ray is at 5. So, yikes. Okay. Let me get this screen shared so everybody can see it.
But thank you, man. I appreciate the kind intro, and it's a joy to be here. I always love your content. Obviously, I love your stuff for Dynasty. That's kind of how I got to know who you are, but I love seeing you branch out into other things.
Yeah, talk about your underdog kind of journey when you first started drafting. This is my first year of really doing it seriously. I've done probably 25 underdog drafts prior to this year total. And then this year I'm going to do over 500. So talk about dipping your feet in versus jumping right in. What's your background in terms of best ball, underdog, et cetera, as I get the board drafted?
Yeah, I've always really been more of a, season long player, not so much into best ball. But obviously with underdog over the last few years, I've chosen to get more into best ball. So really last year was the first year I drafted a lot. The year before I just kind of dabbled in it, but this year will definitely be my most. So I'm on a similar journey. Obviously, you're jumping straight in this year. I don't know that I'll get to 500 teams. We'll see. We'll see if I get to that. I'm probably shooting for like 250, 350. I want to max out BBM. And then I've got a bunch of other stuff that I've been doing. So, but I love it, man. Like I'm addicted to it now. So it's like the train has left the station. There's no stopping. I love not managing these things in the season. I will tell you that.
Yes.
When you have so much content going on, I will say I do a lot of high stakes teams too. And sometimes by the middle of the year, I'm like, oh my God, why did I draft 30 teams that I've got to manage all these waiver wires for?
100%. I'm with you. I do probably 40 to 50 high stakes leagues in terms of FFPC and Kentucky and different places. And it just becomes the waiver grind and trying to stay on top of that. This is nice to be able to get some stakes in and be able to play something that's different. What have you learned? And you're coming up here at the 1-2 turn, so you can kind of talk through what you've been doing when you're picking on the turn. I went Tyreek Hill at 104. Ray went Bijan Robinson at 105. Justin Jefferson went 103, but pretty chalky picks for both of us. I think Ray's been into the taking an early running back and trying to build around that instead of just hammering the receivers. But what do you do here on the end since you're at the 1-2 turn? I haven't loved picking here.
I don't like picking here that much either, but I just kind of wait and let the board, let's see what's here. But obviously there's a lot of guys I love, and I'm hoping just one of them slips to me. But if not, I don't have a ton of Marvin Harrison just because of the way my drafts have worked out. So I'm hoping that I get him. He's usually available here. So yeah, so I am looking at, so I'm going to take Harrison for sure, but I'm just deciding, I'm looking at my stuff. Gibbs. Actually, I'm going to go Harrison, and I'm going to go London.
Okay.
So I just, the wide receiver avalanche. I can deal with the running backs later. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I think obviously an elite talent. So I don't have any problems with him. I don't have problems with taking him, but honestly, I just have more Marvin Harrison, Jahmyr Gibbs starts than I do Marvin Harrison, Drake London. So, and it's a super easy start. Pretty much anybody can start with Harrison and London, but I like both guys. London this year, I'm projecting a 70 yard per game increase in passing yards for the Falcons, just upgrading from the complete crap they had at quarterback over to Kirk Cousins. So when I look at that, love the coordinator as well. And I think we've pretty much seen that Drake London at worst is probably a mid-range wide receiver 2 talent profile. At best, he might be more of a mid-range wide receiver 1 talent profile. So getting him at the end of round 1, I'm good with. I know some people think that's pretty expensive, but the list of guys that are really good that have had that kind of increase in passing yards per game has been really good. If they've been in their prime and they've been good players. You remember Eric Decker when he got Peyton Manning, 7 points per game. T.Y. Hilton the year he had Jacoby Brissett, and then you got Andrew Luck back. That was like a 6-point increase per game. So I think it's going to be a good year for Drake London.
So I've just loaded up started 20 slow Bestball Mania 5 drafts, and of course, better that. Well, to get 150 in, man, I was only at about 50, and I have a busy August. I'll be traveling numerous weekends, going to the expo, going to Vegas for FFPC. I'll be out there for a week before. Ray just sniped me on Waddle, so I have to pivot a little bit here and I'll go with Ayuk. But what I was getting to is, of course, I entered 20 slow Bestball Mania 5 drafts. I swear I ended up with the 108 to 112 in like 10 of them. And I'm sitting there going, I have very little CD Lamb just because he either goes at 1 or 2, and I didn't have a lot of picks. And every time I've gotten 1, I've taken McCaffrey because I've only gotten a couple 101s. But I've started to just look at when I'm picking it between 9 and 12, like I'm just trying to get different combinations of the players there, right? Like it's the same.
That's what I was just thinking there.
And I use the Spike Week tool that kind of goes through and it tracks this stuff for you, and it'll let you track like how often you have your first, your second, your third round pick together. And when I pull up a team, I go, wow, I have, Garrett Wilson and Drake London on like 3 teams already. And I've only drafted 50. So I was like, maybe I should just do something different. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with 6 teams where I start with those 2. And then if you do that, you really have to make sure you build them out differently because you're going to be falling into the same trap of taking the same players, building the same stacks, etc. So, how do you manage that when you're doing a lot of teams? Like, are you cognizant of not just the correlation, but like how many times I have Bijan with this quarterback, or you know what I mean?
I am, and I worry about it more and more as we get deeper into the season because ADPs will start to change, they'll shift, and some of it just takes care of itself. So I don't want to be overly careful about it because sometimes combinations that you used to be able to get, you'll no longer be able to get, and you'll be like, crap, I wish I would have actually taken that combination like a few more times. So I start to think about that more in August because I still, we know we're still going to get quite a few ADP movers, whether it's due to injuries, whatever the case may be, just the storylines from camp, things will start to move around. Some things will be true, some things won't be true, but it won't matter. It's going to move ADP. And people just get fatigued of taking the same players. And that itself, I think at times drives changes in ADP. So I do care about it. I think like at this point of the year, like if you're saying you've drafted 50 teams, I would be much more concerned. Like if I had done it on like 8 or 9, 3, I probably wouldn't get overly concerned about because my guess is ADP is going to change enough that it's probably going to push me off of it. Or if it doesn't, it's fine. I still have time, to adapt. But it does just plan on it's based on your timeline, right? And like you were just talking about, hey, you're busy in August, so you're drafting more now than later. So I think, those are all factors like just to consider.
So you were up here in a pick at the 3-4 turn. You started with Marv Drake London. What are you thinking here? Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I'm taking Tank Dell, who I absolutely freaking love. I don't know how much longer we get him.
He's moved up like half a round over the last 2 weeks. I mean, he's definitely moving up ahead of Diggs in a lot of drafts now. I see him going ahead of Diggs. Yeah, he's definitely moved up.
I'm going to go ahead and take Laporta too. So I was staying away from Laporta early, and so I need to draft Laporta now because I think Laporta is one of these guys, like we could see his ADP creep back the other way, like once the masses enter the pool. We'll see, maybe not. But when he was up at the top of the third round, I was out. I was like, I can't do it. The distance between him and Kelsey and, McBride, while I would put him first, it's not that far, right? It's not as far as what people were drafting him as. So it's like I want to get some exposure to it now. And if he stays at this price, then I'll chill back out later.
Yeah, that's one of those interesting things. There were a lot of teams that went McCaffrey, Laporta, because I've seen teams take him in the 212, you know what I mean? Because they're just trying to stack that game, or, they're trying to build a Niners-Lions stack, and they take Laporta at 303 after they took Debo or Ayuk at, 209 or 210. And it's interesting because I took some Laporta there on those teams, but now I'm sitting here like I can probably build that same stack, but I can see Laporta falling to where you just got him. You got him in the 4th round. Like that wasn't happening a month ago.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me not want to build those teams anymore. At the same time, like if you can build more of them with maybe an extra piece that's unique from the ones that you had before.
That's where it's at. Yep. And we'll see. Like he could shift back the other way. But the other thing is, like, those other teams are not necessarily dead just because now you're going to need Laporta to really slide to like the 4th round to have anybody that's going to have like 2 49ers pass catchers with Laporta. You know what I mean? Like a draft would still have to work out really perfectly. So I still think like in week 17, like those early stacks with Laporta, CMC, and usually those teams were taking like Debo or Ayuk as well. And so they were just stacking that game at the 1-2 turn. What's funny is now those could still end up being original teams because people are not doing it because the ADP moved. So, I mean, there's just so many layers to this stuff, man. And like the different things that could happen and the way that it could all play out. And some of it, we really just don't know. We don't know. Like we know the players we like, we know how we've got them tiered, we know correlation, but in the end, like all these dynamics of the way these drafts change over time, that plays a role in who's ultimately going to win this thing. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
This team on the end is working on a kind of unique team. There's probably going to be a decent number of McCaffrey, Smitty, Jalen Hurts teams, but they squeezed in a DK Metcalf in there and got Hurts at QB4. End of round 4. Pretty strong.
End of round 4. And you see that sometimes with Hurts. If the A.J. Brown drafter doesn't take him, you get a shot at it. Now, I've had Devonta sitting there like that multiple times, not at that spot, but in the early round 1, and I've not been as lucky. Someone else is just like, nah, I'm taking Jalen Hurts. You can't have him.
Not a lot of obvious correlation here for me, so I'm gonna go with just ADP value, a player that I only have 3% of in BBM. So I'm gonna go with a second running back. Not what I was planning on, but
yeah, I don't have much ETN either, but I've been trying to make sure I'm getting him a little bit when he falls past ADP. I'm in the same boat with Pacheco too, and Josh Jacobs. This whole range, if any of these guys go bonkers right now, I'm in trouble.
The interesting thing that I was thinking about, and I talked about on the last show that I did, that I recorded and just basically summarized my first 40 BBM drafts or so, was you can easily spot some of the blind spots where it's like, wow, I have 3% of all these running backs in the Aaron Jones, David Montgomery. It's like, I'm just not picking running backs in there. So I'm like, I got to change that up. And how do you change?
I think that's actually I think that's not a bad place to be taking running back if you were completely in on wide receivers and stuff early. I spread my bets on them though. There's not really anyone in that range that I'm like just staking the ground, pounding the table for. I think they all have flaws, right? Mm-hmm. The next round, I can tell you who I want. I want Jaylen Warren. I want Jonathan Brooks. I want the upside for late in the season. So We'll see. If Josh Jacobs falls to me here, I'm going to click his name. I have like 2% Josh Jacobs.
I think if this team doesn't take him right here, there's a decent shot that he does. I don't see an obvious the Gibbs Garrett Wilson team would take him.
There goes Mixon. That Mixon was my backup plan just with Dell.
There you go.
Right. And I'm still hesitant. Do I want to click on Josh Jacobs' name? I'm going to do it.
It's 9 picks past his ADP.
Yeah, we're taking him. This is when you do it.
Yes.
This is when you do it. Okay, so I've got Josh Jacobs on the squad now, and I'm going to turn around and come back with my guy here. I'm going to go ahead and get my fourth wide receiver. I'm going to go with Odunze. I thought about Godwin. I love Rome Odunze. I know there's Keenan Allen. I know all these things, but I think there's a chance he still wins the outside role. And by the time we're trying to win all the money in this thing, Odunze's a guy that will look back and be like, why did we let him go that far past Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors? Interested in your thoughts. Obviously you spend a lot of time looking at Dynasty as well. At Fantasy Life, I run the rookie supermodel, so I spent a lot of time studying Rome Odunze, watching and from a data and analytics standpoint, and I loved him.
I am very curious to see how he's used right away. Like you've heard numerous people talk about, if he just has an outside role and he's not getting rotated off the field, you'll probably notice that. I don't even care if he doesn't produce right away. I just want to see if he's on the field right away. If he's out there, remember his rookie year when George Pickens right off the bat was out on the field all the time. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. I'm obviously hoping that the offense can elevate him, vice versa, because he still is a rookie quarterback. It's tough to justify 3 receivers with a rookie quarterback going where they go. It's almost like you're accepting that one of the 3 is not going to work out, but you get enough exposure to the offense that if it is a offense that's like the Texans last year, that it's going to also have benefits if you just have all 3. And the guy I haven't taken a lot of is DJ Moore. I've started to take him more just because it's like, he's
fallen now. He was too expensive early. He was an early to mid second round pick.
But he's historically a great player. You know what I mean? Right. To say, I don't want him because of these other 2 guys. No. Now that he's in the 20s, I think he's wide receiver 21 now, wide receiver 20. I'll take him there because he's going in the 3rd. So.
Yeah, and Keenan's getting older. So, look, I'm not a big Shane Waldron fan. That scares me a lot. There's a lot of things that have to go right for the Bears. You also have Caleb Williams. As much as I like him, he's a rookie quarterback. There's a lot of things that could go wrong for Rome Odunze. He in essence is going to have to run pretty pure. The thing that keeps me on him is I know when he does run pure, I'm going to love it. Whereas some of the other guys in that range, I'm like, okay, what does a pure run look like for this guy or for this other guy? But with Rome, I know if it all clicks, it's going to be something I'm very excited about having on my roster.
Yep. So since I'm up in a few picks and I kind of already have a plan on what I'm going to do, I wanted to change gears real quick and just talk about they just released another single entry tournament today, and just want to talk to you a little bit about smaller entry fields. So less teams, but where you can only enter 1 or you can only enter 3. How important, and I didn't give you this question in advance, so it's completely off the cuff. How important do you think uniqueness is there, maybe in a 27,000 field tournament where you can only put in 3 entries versus, meaning there's going to be a lot, you put in 3 entries and it's $25 a pop. There's going to be a lot more people that are max entering that, right? With 3 different teams, just because it's easy to do. Everybody can do it. They can map out 3 different teams and draft. But how important do you think is ADP in something like that versus just building 3 heavily correlated unique teams, if that makes sense?
Well, I think it's still going to be a blend of all those things. If you get some crazy, unique ADP value on a player you like that fits your build, I think those are the 2 important criteria. A player that you're in on, and that it does still fit your build, then I think having ADP value could still. I could see you being in some rooms where you're getting so much value because everybody's one-track minded like that. So I think it could go either way. But at the same time, I like when I'm in those kind of tournaments, to have more of I'm going to take my shots on the players that I really want to take. And if I think there's a player edge that, there are ranges though in the draft where I don't think I have a player edge, right? Where I think I've talked about this in my recent tiers and rankings articles. and letting people know, like, look, home league people, like, you should be taking advantage of the underdog ADP. Like, we've never had a market this robust. Usually at this point in the year, like, it's a complete crapshoot. But because of underdog and because of what we have with this, like, it's just a very unique situation, and you should be taking advantage of it. God, I was one pick away from I wanted Aaron Jones on this team. Don't have that much.
What you thinking here? You're at 4 receivers, a running back, and a tight end thus far.
Yeah, I was hoping I would get lucky on Kyler falling. Didn't work out. A lot of times the Trey McBride drafter is going to take that. So I'm taking Jonathan Brooks.
Okay.
And I'm taking Jaylen Warren. Definitely me just taking the 2 guys I like. I take those 2 guys. I have big bets on both of those players. I'm not going to lie. And again, it is an aim towards, with Brooks, obviously, it's an aim towards the end of the season. But in that range, I'm just not crazy about any of the wide receivers. I don't have any quarterbacks that really make sense from a correlation standpoint. At that pick, I could have reached for Caleb, but I didn't really want to do that. I still have Kirk Cousins hanging around out there for Drake London, Jared Goff later with Sam Laporta. So I didn't want to force the quarterback. I just took the 2 upside running backs. Like, those are my 2 favorite backs to draft in that round or in that range. So I just, Jalen, I get it with Najee, but it's just one of these deals where, again, if it goes right for you, where are we ranking Jaylen Warren if suddenly he is the lead back for Pittsburgh? And I think there's more outs to this than just Najee getting hurt. I think there is still a chance Jalen just outplays him so much. Now it's Arthur Smith, who's, I said this in I was responding to somebody earlier today, and I said Arthur Smith's player utilization is more frustrating than trying to keep all your passwords synced on 15 different family devices where everybody's changing their passwords all the time. But I just want to bet on the talent, in that range. And Jaylen Warren has just shown like he's got that ability in the passing game that if things click right for him, if we knew Najee was out of the way somehow, like, I'd probably be ranking him immediately inside the top 6, 7. I mean, that's how good Jaylen Warren's been. Now, small sample, it could go the other way on him.
Well, you did create a nice little running back run where if you wanted one of these running backs in this sweet zone, I call it, because basically you're getting a lot of potential opportunity for a low price. I mean, you went Brooks, Warren, and then White, Mostert, Swift, Connor, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, all ripped off the board. And it's interesting. I'm looking at what this is probably doing one of my most heavily correlated teams that I have drafted thus far. Every single pick has kind of fallen.
Yep, where you're getting to correlate.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm working on 3 different games right now, but we'll see. We'll see how it comes back. 2 quarterbacks going off the board there. I kind of like that.
Yeah, this is one of my, actually it's easy to get a team like this. I don't really have anything going right now on the correlation side. I was wanting the Minnesota pick because I would have that with Green Bay for week 17. Also, if I was able to get Aaron Jones there, I would have also had the Chicago correlation in week 15. And then I could have come back with like a Charbonnet, and I would have had that in week 6. So the Aaron Jones pick, the ADP fall was nice, and also it would have worked really well with my team.
So what do you do when you have a team that kind of looks like this, where you're not really sure exactly what you're going to be heavily invested in? Are you trying to look at where can I correlate as many games as I've already drafted myself into? Because, I'm looking right now.
Man. Depends on the way the board falls. I'm definitely looking ahead. Like, I'm looking right now at everything. Yep. I've got a schedule up that's got the last 3 weeks on it, starting obviously with week 17 and then working backward. But just looking for anywhere, it just becomes a tiebreaker for me still at this range. I'm not reaching for bringbacks. I might reach for, a stack, on a quarterback or something if I needed to at this point, because I don't want to be left without any of that.
Yeah,
my hope is that Jaden Daniels makes it to me.
Yeah, you still have Daniels, but how would you decipher? And I'll wait till you're on the clock just to make sure nobody says any. You never know who's in here looking. Let me see. Everyone's got a quarterback here. We got Richardson, Mahomes. I think you're pretty safe. Oh, there you go. You said it.
It's okay. It happens. I'm I try to just be straightforward on these things, and not worry about it too much, but that kind of thing happens.
So would you lean into, I mean, you still have Cousins out there. You still have Goff.
Well, I'll take Caleb right here if he makes it. Because, I've already made the Odunze bet. And if Odunze somehow goes off without an injury to one of the other two wide receivers, well, that absolutely means that Caleb Williams is going bonkers in this world that I'm living in. So I'm taking Caleb. I'm just trying to decide right now. Chargers. All right, I've got Caleb in my queue, so I can let it go down, and it'll automatically take him. I'm just looking a little bit down. Yeah, all right. I'm taking Caleb. I'm torn here. I'm thinking about taking Trey Benson. I don't really want to take another running back of this archetype with what I have, but I've got Marvin Harrison already. Actually, I'm going to flip that. All right, I'm going to go with Blake Corum.
Okay.
All right. So Corum sets up with my Marvin Harrison, and obviously, I waited on running back. I didn't take any early running back, and I'm not that crazy about Josh Jacobs, even though I got him past ADP. So having another shot at running back, I thought about Josh Palmer there, like he's below ADP, but I feel pretty good right now with where I'm sitting. Yeah,
I'm sitting on only 4 receivers, and they're not stopping. You know what I mean? There's a couple that I'm still interested in, but it's there's definitely been a receiver avalanche here where definitely I haven't even looked at where.
I will ask you, have you really gotten used to doing these and talking the whole time? Because what I've looked back at, my drafts where I do the best, I'm not doing a show at all.
Oh yeah, no, the
multitasking for me, I can do it, but like whenever I'm honed in on a draft, there's no better feeling. And a lot of times, dude, I'll draft when I'll go for a walk. I'll go for like an hour walk and draft a team, and man, 100%. I am freaking locked in.
100%. I will usually wake up. My routine is because I want to get enough live drafts in to where I can take advantage of somebody that's just auto picking or somebody that just wanted to do a live draft just for fun. You know what I mean? Like the slow drafts, it feels like, and maybe this is just me hypothesizing, but it feels like the people, and I don't love Josh Palmer. I have zero correlation, but this is.
Yeah, you just way past ADP.
I have 5% Josh Palmer, and it's a round and a half past his ADP. So I'm going to take Josh Palmer, even though there's like 5 other receivers that I would have probably taken had he not been there. But now back to your question. There's probably more opportunity in live drafts if you have some sort of tool or you have something that you're looking at to really make sure you're honed in and you're not distracted. So I usually wake up in the morning and grab a cup of coffee, and I'm sitting here. I'll just fire off a live draft at 7 a.m. I don't know who I'm drafting with. Same thing if it's at midnight some night. You know what I mean? I'll just try to hit on different times where I don't know who I'm drafting against, but it's probably different people, and they're all up against a 30-second clock. All my QBs are getting taken here, Dwayne. All my QBs.
I've been there. I've been there.
Man, I was really hoping that Brock Purdy or T-Law would come back. So I guess I'm going to have to settle for doesn't it feel gross taking Tua right at his ADP? I mean, how many Tua Tyreek teams are there going to be? You know what I mean?
It doesn't matter. You've got some other unique things going on with your build. Like I don't sweat that.
I am going to. I don't really want to take Tua here. All right. I'm going to go Tua because I have a ton of Deshaun Watson, but that eliminates me taking Deshaun Watson, even though I have Njoku and Amari Cooper. That's okay. Give me the Tua Tyreek with the 2 Browns bringbacks. But I assume have you taken any teams where you take the quarterback in the same game because the ADP just lines up?
No. I mean, I've got it a couple times just where it went, the second quarterback fell a long way,
Yeah.
And everything else you had set up went. So you're just like, well, screw it. At this point, it's still the best choice I have to make. Even though I didn't want to build those as a 3 QB build, I just shifted gears and did it. But it has to be at a major discount. I've actually had some people reach out to me and ask me about that. They're like, hey, how about doing this all in one game? I'm like, no. You want more outs. You want multiple chances for multiple different games to go off, at the end. Yes, you want to stack and correlate, but your quarterbacks, you prefer them not be in the same game.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it a couple times with Justin Fields on teams where I have Mahomes, but I don't think that's probably a smart move necessarily if it's a 3 QB build with Mahomes, you know what I mean? But it has to be a quarterback where I literally can say if they hit their peak performance and this game is a shootout, the quarterback itself could outscore the quarterback that's already in that game. You know what I mean? What I don't want is a Tua Watson 2 QB build team. And you're on the clock. I know I'm distracting you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. All right. I didn't really want to take another running back here, but I am because, man, I'm torn here. Do I want to go Dotson? I'm going to go Dotson. I was torn. I thought about going Ricky Pearsall again for the Detroit stuff. But I'll go Washington versus Atlanta. I'm letting Kirk Cousins go, obviously. We'll see if he comes back past ADP to me. So we'll see.
Have any...
And Charbonnet is just a pick because...
I love that pick. That's a great value, Charbonnet.
Yeah, and I mean, he plays Green Bay in Week 15. I get him against the Bears in Week 17. You know, that's one of the easiest, man. The Seattle, Chicago, Green Bay, and Minnesota. Those teams is like, I mean, you can flood the playoffs with multiple rounds of potential shootouts with your game stacks.
Any hard, fast rules on too many players in one game? People have asked me.
I try to. I don't think there's a hard fast. Again, I think everything comes down to like the value and different things you're getting. But I definitely wouldn't want to be over 6. Typically, my limit is 5. I like 4. Like 4, I think is my sweet spot. 5 is okay. Like 6, maybe every once in a while if everything just worked out a certain way and you're like, okay, it's still my best option at this exact point in this draft. But I mean, the research that Leone has done has been really good, and then Graham Barfield had some good stuff on it too. You know that 6 does seem to be the max where you're pushing it, but 4 and 5 are a nice sweet spot.
Yeah, I'm working on right now. Let's see who Ray goes, and I'll look at some of the teams here. We haven't really talked about our teams much. Ray goes Kirk Cousins. All right, is there anything obvious for me? Oh. All right, we are going to go a little bit of an ADP reach here, but it makes sense with the correlation. I think this guy's going to move up a little bit over the next. He's already moved up quite a bit, but I think he's going to continue to go up. Some Pop Douglas with that Josh Palmer. I'm going to push Justin Herbert one more round.
Ray took my Kirk Cousins.
I know.
With Bijan.
So Ray's got Bijan, Cousins, and Terry McLaurin. So that's a
good. He can come back and take Darnell Mooney. Get Darnell Mooney out of my queue, Ray.
Chubb. Man, I think it may happen here. Come on. Jermaine Burton. All right. I would love to backdoor this Justin Herbert, Josh Palmer, both around past their ADP. Perfect.
Yep.
Love that.
And that's really the way you want to build that stack.
And
I don't really want to be in on that stack like at ADP.
It gets the temptation for me to draft another Will Levis share with DeAndre Hopkins. I think I have like 17% Will Levis, and it's just I don't know.
Ray. Darnell Mooney out of my queue.
he was listening to you. What's your take? This is one we've talked a lot in our Discord recently about the Titans. I know you and Ray did the show the other night, which was fabulous. Talking through.
Yeah, I had a blast hanging with Ray. It was fun.
He's taken a, I think he's on. Not that other people haven't done good work with this stuff, but I think coming at this from where he came from the Devy part, college football part, and then became like super into dynasty, and then now kind of looking at it from a zoom out NFL lens. We were talking a lot about the Titans, and you can wait till you're after you're picking to answer. But the Titans, I mean, everybody's high on the Titans as like a sleeper offense, like better than what they've been. Levis is a value. The receivers, one of them is going to be a value. But we started looking, Dwayne, at like what Will Levis did versus what Brian Callahan has done, and it couldn't be more of a polar opposite. So it's just going to be interesting to see what that actually look like. And I'm guessing this is Brian Callahan's shot. He's not going to cater to what Will Levis wants to do. You know what I mean? It's going to be the other way around. So I don't know. I'm a little skeptical now on all those Levis shares I have.
Yeah. I think Levis was fine. I mean, you were getting him for nothing early on. Didn't really see myself doing that, but I will. So I went ahead and took Ty Chandler. Again, the correlate, I'm getting him way past ADP. Minnesota, I get games against Chicago, Seattle, and Green Bay. Now I'm gonna take Wan'Dale Robinson. I have to take another receiver. I'm not crazy about Wan'Dale, but I get week 16 correlation at least out of that one. And it leaves some backdoor stuff open for me at some other positions later that I'm not going to be naming anymore because, Ray's sniping. I'm just kidding. Ray's taking the players he should take.
So I know I've been pretty steadfast on not wanting to draft 3 quarterbacks or 3 tight ends. That seems like the worst idea to do both in the same draft. But you have any thoughts on kind of where this team's going to go for you? You're at a 1-6-6-1 build. I assume is it going to be 2-3? Are you going to go just 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends here? What do you think?
Yeah, I hate saying this, but I kind of let the value on the board dictate some of that. I don't mind 3 QB builds. I think it's tough to go 3 and 3. I won't have more than 2 tight ends, period. Once I take Laporta, like I've made my bed. Taking a guy like Caleb Williams, where I got him, I don't mind a 3 QB build, but looking at my team right now, I don't have backdoor options really. I would still have to set one up. So probably a 2 QB build, but we'll see. I got my eye on something here. We'll see what happens with it.
So I'm up in 1.
So why are you? Yeah, do your pick, and then I want to hear why you're steadfast against 3. Because I build with 2 and 3. To be honest, and it all depends on the draft capital I spend on quarterback early.
See where this pick goes. I'm eyeing Antonio Gibson here. I don't think Ray is going to take him. There we go. Benson not. So continue. This is one of those where you never thought you were going to build out Patriots Chargers, but they're always one you can go to in like round 9 and go, you know what? Let's try that. And it has actually worked out for me. You know how many times I've taken Josh Palmer or Hunter Henry. I'm like, I'm going to build out a couple Patriots Chargers, and then someone else takes one. And you just end up with a naked Josh Palmer, which is fine. But
yeah.
You end up thinking you're going to build it out late, and there's one other person in the draft that's thinking
it got too hot, man. It got to where I was watching people just try to build that stack, like taking they're taking Drake May like way ahead of ADP. They're taking Pop Douglas ahead of ADP. Hunter Henry above ADP. I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's the luxury of it is that it's cheap. When you start like trying to force it, in my opinion, like you kind of jump the shark.
Yep. Yeah, I've got I don't know. I really like this team. This is not a team I expected to build on a live draft, but I
like your squad too.
Every piece is correlated. I'm at a 1-6-5 or 2-6-5 or 2-5-6-1 right now. So I'm probably looking at this being a 5 RB team. I used 4 of my top 9 picks on running backs, top 8 picks on running backs. So not going to take more than 5. So I'm just going to have to find a couple 8 correlated receivers, and it's probably going to be, we'll see if it's a 2 tight end or 3 tight end build. Njoku's right on that fringe of like, if I take him as my tight end 1, I expect him to finish, top 8 or so. But I could also see going 3 tight ends with Njoku, depending on who your second is. And my second's going to probably be pretty late here. So let's see, receiver-wise. I don't love this. Where are you at with Marvin Mims versus Troy Franklin?
Coin flip. Coin flip, man. It's just
it. Coin flip, nothing else, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had some like major knowledge to drop. Be like, this is the dude to make a stand on. I don't have that.
Another guy is Josh Reynolds. He's been completely forgotten, but he's always played that. He'll give you 40 for 500 on like 4 different seasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But nobody drafts him at all. I mean, are we super sure Marvin Mims is better than Josh Reynolds?
I feel pretty good that he is, but I'm not sure that Sean Payton will see it that way.
Fair.
I mean, Sean Payton played Lil Jordan Humphrey. I mean, what was the other wide receiver last year for them? It's like the most
Brandon
generic
Johnson.
name, Brandon Johnson. Yeah. I mean, I can't explain Sean Payton, but he'll tell you how brilliant he is himself. So
yeah. So what are you thinking here? 4 picks left. And you already said you're going with 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends.
Yeah, probably. I have to. My quarterback situation here kind of got a little jacked up. Man, I really wanted. Well, let's see.
There goes Will Levis. Crushed my dreams of him coming back to me. Just kidding.
Well, I had my eye on him for a potential turn pick with my second tight end.
Deshaun Watson, almost 2 rounds past his ADP.
Yeah, I know. I am just going to do it because there are guys that I can take later to go with him.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take.
I'm glad you did, because if somehow a bunch of teams between us have 2 quarterbacks, like if he would have come back to me, even though I have 2 and I already have 2 quarterbacks, I would have had to do it.
All right. I'm going to go Jonnu.
Oh, man. That was setting up to be my perfect tight end too, Dwain.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
No, dude,
I like Jonnu gave me something. I get the game against Houston, and then I get the stack against Deshaun in 17. So dude, I get Houston in 15 and then Deshaun. So
people will probably look at that pick, those 2 picks together, as like they were just random, unplanned. You had no clue those were even on your radar. You wouldn't have put those guys in your queue 2 rounds ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was perfect. Now you have exposure. You can probably take like Elijah Moore or Cedric Tillman or someone like that, and you're live in that game. A game that you never thought you would be in, given how many players.
Yeah, you have to get creative once the quarterback stuff. Sometimes based on the way it turns out. And I won't be opposed to this being a 3 QB build. We'll see how it turns out here. You just never know.
Nope.
I'm done at running back. Like I got 6, so I'm done. So it's receiver or quarterback. And it could be 2 receivers.
How you feel about that team right next to Ray? First 2 QBs, Drake May, Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones was the other quarterback I would have been willing to take.
All right.
Mark Chase, Devontae, Cooper Kupp. I personally don't like drafting Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp on the same team, just with their age and the signs that both have shown in the last 2 years. Definitely, I think there's a really good chance one of those guys just falls off this year between the 2 of them. I can't say both of them. And then you draft Adam Thielen too. Like, no, I don't like the team. Yeah. But man, I mean, he pounded those running backs in the middle: Pacheco, Rashad White, James Conner, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. I don't love that team. I like getting Jamar Chase at pick 6.
There's a lot of fragility with the running backs we took too. Just a lot of guys that historically
they're all priced fine. Those are guys that used to everybody paid too much for. But yeah.
So I went Chiga Conquo as my tight end 2. So the only faux pas is that you sniped me on Jonnu, but that's okay. So now I have some extra exposure to that Jacksonville and Tennessee game. And I'm probably done at tight end. I'm going to live dangerously here. I'm going to try to hit 2 more receivers. See what's out there. Ooh. Can probably get him coming back. Man. I think I got to do it, Dwain. I think I got Marvin Mims is still sitting there. I think I'll go Mims and Troy Franklin. One of them's got to be good, right?
Get it. Now you're gonna have a 3 quarterback build. You're gonna have to come back and take Bo Nix. Look what you just did to yourself.
Yeah, I mean they do have. I do have the correlation.
Cincinnati on your team?
I do not have any Cincinnati. They do have the Week 16 correlation with the Chargers.
The Chargers.
So that's really the only link there. So, what are you thinking to round this out? I'm assuming at least
I gotta look at receiver, and try to correlate it as much as possible. What's your take on Malik Washington? I never take him, but he's definitely a player that I want. I think I've taken him like 1%.
That's my last round pick. If you do not take him, 100%.
So you're like, I hate him. I hate him.
No, him or Elijah Moore. I would prefer not to take Elijah Moore because I already have both Njoku and Cooper.
No, Elijah, I'm taking. I mean, if he's here, I'm taking, obviously.
Oh yeah, I think he should be there.
I get Elijah a lot when I have Deshaun. I mix in a Cedric Tillman like occasionally, like just dash one in. All right, so I'm getting Elijah and Malik.
Yeah, the problem is with Caleb, there's really nobody in that game that you're really interested in unless you wanted to go.
There is.
Could I interest you in a Week 16 Donovan Peoples-Jones correlation with the Bears, or that rather have a little upside with Malik Washington?
Yeah, it's all on Zach Charbonnet's shoulders for correlation with Caleb. It's Caleb Odunze v. Charbonnet.
Let's see. I'm probably going one more receiver.
I could have gone Zay Jones. That was an option.
What's your take on that? I've shied away from taking Zay Jones. I start looking at
it's a sprinkle. It's a sprinkle.
Yeah, and I took a lot of Zay Jones early thinking he's going to be the second option. Now I'm sitting here going, man, I should have taken a couple Michael Wilson. Now you got to pay, around 17 to get Greg Dortch because someone else is probably trying to get Greg Dortch. So it feels like I got too much Zay Jones, and I wish I would have taken more of some of the other guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, the Cardinals' offense we know is going to be pretty consolidated around Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. But I still think all those other guys, like, it won't surprise me if Michael Wilson is the third option. It won't surprise me if Zay Jones is the third option. It won't surprise me if those two guys split time. It could go anyway. I think Michael Wilson, obviously, they drafted him the year before, so that's who they want to be the guy.
Yes. I would lean on it, go exactly how they're drafted between Wilson, Jones, and Dortch. But
yeah,
from a best ball standpoint, you might get 2 games out of Dortch and you get no games out of Wilson, even though Wilson puts up better cumulative stats. You know what I mean? Just because he plays more. So,
absolutely.
All right, let's recap these teams. I will let you go first, kind of talk through your build. I know you kind of talked through it a little bit during the draft. It is very hard to build these teams while you're trying to talk about them and make conversation about other topics. But talk through your build, why you did what you did, any regrets, anything you do not like, where you're just kind of like, this team is just.
I don't really have regrets. It's hard to from the turn, right? Because the odds of you getting the thing that you want, right? If they're anywhere, a little bit past ADP, it's hard. It's hard from this spot. So you make the choice. Do you just want to reach for certain stacks or things like that? Or you want to try to roll the dice and see how it works out from, you potentially getting some value. And it can go either way on you. But started 3 wide receivers. So that gave me strength there. Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Tank Dell. Then I turned around, took an elite tight end, Sam Laporta, first pick of round 4. So that I like doing that too. One, because I haven't been drafting Laporta at the price he used to be, but it just frees me up just to not have to worry about tight end until the end of the draft. So now I like my 3 wide receivers and my tight end, and I can kind of play value while still be playing the board and just thinking about, okay, 24, or 22 picks, between me is a long way. So come get Josh Jacobs, who actually I did get a value on, which is essentially the only way I'm drafting him. So he falls back to me. He ends up working out really well because I get stacks against Seattle with Charbonnet. I also get a stack against Minnesota with Ty Chandler. Not that we love running back stacks, but it's better than nothing. And then coming back after that, I get another upside wide receiver, Rome Odunze. We talked about him plenty. And then at that point, all I had was Jacobs. So it's a sweet spot for trying to hit upside on the running backs. And that's why I dialed in on Jonathan Brooks and Jalen Warren. I was 1 pick away from getting Aaron Jones. And it would have been Aaron Jones and Jonathan Brooks. It would have been those two. I might have gone Warren. I would have looked at my exposure on that to see what my builds look like. So I had hoped to have a chance for CJ Stroud to fall further. Kyler, I had hoped I had a chance. And CJ did fall in this draft. Stroud fell to 79. So I passed him at that turn, and Kyler went at 77. So that kind of nuked my chance for a Marvin Kyler stack, which has gotten harder and harder to do. I feel like almost all the time the Trey McBride drafter, which was Ray in this case, is taking Kyler Murray. So it makes it difficult. And then I just kind of stayed on running back. Blake Corum correlates with the Arizona game with Marvin Harrison. Seattle, I already talked about, correlates across multiple things. Caleb Williams is on the squad to go with Rome Odunze. The idea being that, well, A, it's just a stack, but B, if Rome Odunze somehow goes off, and it's not because DJ Moore or Keenan Allen got hurt, it's because the Bears are going bonkers. And in that world, like, you're just happy to have Caleb either way. And then almost all the rest of the picks were, guys that I had in tiers, and I just tie broke all of them based on correlation between games. So I won't bore everybody with naming all of them.
Well, you had a 2-6-8-2 build. I think you hit on a really good point that when you draft Laporta, one of the benefits you get, especially when you get him past his ADP, is that you're only taking 2 tight ends. So you're freeing up a roster spot. Caleb is probably right on the fringe of, do you want to go 2 quarterbacks? Do you want to go 3? You could go 3 with him. You could go 2 with him. I think you got Watson at a good value if you're willing to make the bet on Watson. You freed up an extra spot, which allowed you to take another running back. You didn't maybe know it yet, but it allowed you to take 6 running backs here. Even though you used a decent amount of capital on running backs, you still were able to get like Ty Chandler around past his ADP. You couldn't pass that up. I love what you did with.
Yeah, if Ty Chandler's not there, I'm not taking a running back with that pick, and I'm probably
right.
done. But he was past ADP and correlated the Minnesota game with Chicago, with Seattle, and Green Bay. So he hits across all 3 games in the final 3 weeks.
And you did a great job, I think, getting Watson where you did, and then you literally built out the Jonnu Smith, Elijah Moore, Malik Washington. So, yeah, those are all, as Ray liked to coin it, a lot of beans in that game. Like you're taking on, especially the exposure of 4 players to that game that you never thought you would have. And there's probably not a lot of teams that actually have Jonnu Smith, Deshaun Watson at those values, plus Malik Washington and Elijah Moore. Like, usually the team that takes Deshaun is they've already got Amari, they've got Njoku. Or, the Jonnu team Jonnu goes to the team that drafted Tua and Waddle. You know what I mean? Like it's
that game is usually stacked the other way.
Correct.
It's usually, hey, you've got Tyreek, Waddle, Cooper, Njoku, a little Jerry Jeudy mixed in, right? And then the quarterbacks from those games. Obviously, the Dolphins running backs, people are all over. But yeah, if the game somehow goes sideways in a weird way, or like, hey, the game goes nuke, and you just get a couple pieces out of it, that end up working for you.
Yep, you just need a Jonnu or Watson or whatever. So I like that. I like that, and then I did the same thing with the Chargers Patriots. You're able to kind of build that out, never thinking you were going into this, going after those. So I'll go through my team real quick, and then we'll end this thing. So this was a very heavily correlated team. I was actually pretty happy with how it turned out. A 2-5-9-2 build. I went 2 quarterbacks, Tua and Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, 15 picks past his ADP. 5 running backs, went early with Achane, Etienne, Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Antonio Gibson. And then Tyreek, Ayuk, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Josh Palmer, Demario Douglas, both Denver receivers, Franklin and Mims, and then Brendan Rice. I could have justified taking Bo Nix over taking Brendan Rice, but I figured, you know what? One of the Broncos.
Do you have any uncorrelated pieces? I mean, Denver, you don't have Cincinnati, but you've got 2 players from the game. Every other piece is correlated.
Correlation. Every other piece is correlated.
Every other one.
4
you
weeks.
got San Francisco, 16. Detroit, Miami, Cleveland. You got Jacksonville, Tennessee. You got 3. You got ETN, Hopkins, and I didn't even see you sneak Pollard in. We must have been talking. And then, like you said, you set up the Chargers and the Patriots, and then you got 2 Denver receivers.
Yep, 4 pieces from Jacksonville, Tennessee. We have.
I like the Brendan Rice throw on at the end with the Chargers there.
I mean, we're so sure that it's DJ Chark. I mean, he goes usually around 17, 18, and this is why you sprinkle in it. But I would have never. I'll end with this. I would have never taken Brendan Rice on a team where I have 0 Justin Herbert.
Yeah,
or I see people.
I look at that as like, if you're going to build a Brendan Rice team, you're going to build the best one ever. This is the perfect time to build a Brendan Rice team.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. 100%.
And his dad is a super cool dude. I got to hang out with him in 2008. I had made the final 15, and it was called the FFOC, Fantasy Football Open Championship. And I made it to the final 15. You get to go to Las Vegas, hang out for the weekend. First place was $1 million. This is 2008. Okay. I don't know if you know, you probably know Chad Schroeder, a real big high stakes fantasy player. This is where I met Chad. Chad
this
had
was $1 million in 2008.
2008. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Fanball was backing it, you know.
Okay.
And so we get to go out, hang out in Vegas. Is me and my buddy. We had split a bunch of teams that we had drafted that year, and so we both fly out to Vegas. We're hanging out, and the other thing is Jerry Rice comes to the party for 2 days to hang with everybody watching these games, basically watch everybody sweat it. And so I start chatting with, you start drinking, having a good time. So I'm chatting with Jerry Rice, and I'm telling him I've got a buddy in Dallas. His name's Lee, that's super into flag football. And Lee used to invite me to come out and play on his flag football team. And I knew how good of an athlete Lee was. I was like, man, I really appreciate it. Like, thanks. But I can't, I'm not as fast. I don't jump as high. I'm not the athlete, any of you guys. Like, if you ever have a lower level team you want me to come hang out and play on, like, I'll come out and play. And I love to play flag football, but I knew it was out of my league, but he's super serious about it. And so I told Jerry Rice about this. I said, hey, I was like, can I prank call my buddy Lee and tell him that I'm hanging out, and he knows I'm here this weekend. He's checking in on me, and tell him that, I got someone here that I told about the flag football team that just won't leave me alone about it because he's moving to Dallas and he wants to know if he can try out for the team. So I set this all up. I texted my buddy, and I'm like, man, this guy, he won't leave me alone. I know y'all's team is really good, but we just talked to him. He's a super cool dude. Jerry Rice loves this idea. So he calls up Lee. We put it on speakerphone. We're sitting there, and he's like, hey, Lee. He's like, yeah, man, I'm thinking about moving to Dallas. I'm looking for a flag football team. And I can tell my buddy's kind of like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, and Jerry Rice starts telling these stories, and he's like, yeah, but, sometimes he goes, I might get flashbacks, from just getting hit so hard. And my buddy's starting to catch on. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, man, just all those years in the league. He's like, in the league. And Jerry Rice, like, he says way more than this. The story's even better. But, he's just sitting there for a second, and he goes, this is Jerry motherfucking Rice. It's the best thing ever. That's how he ends the conversation with my buddy. My buddy, like, still calls me like once a year about it. He goes, remember that time you had Jerry Rice call me? He just thought it was the most amazing thing. So now we've got this great story, and Jerry Rice was so cool and gracious about all that.
Yeah, he was at the Senior Bowl this year. We got to talk to Brendan Rice.
Oh, yeah.
Super humble guy, super nice. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very impressed with him. Not to make this a Brendan Rice thing, but I'm very impressed with, like, he's trying to be his own player. You know what I mean? Like, he's literally has the greatest receiver ever as his dad.
Yeah.
Plays the same position. And Brendan Rice was not really a heralded college prospect. He wasn't a huge recruit. I think he was like a high 3-star recruit or something like that. Like, he didn't grow up like he's going to make it to the league for sure. You know what I mean? Like, it's polar opposite from like Marvin Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
But here he is. So, I mean, back to the original point. Like, if you're going to take these late receivers, don't do it on teams.
Our point is, if you're going to take these late receivers, they need to be sons of former NFL greats. Is that what?
That hurt. Like, honestly, it doesn't hurt for him to have that, along with the fact that, like, he's on a team where you already said you're not sure.
It's wide open, man. It's wide open.
Like, I'll say this about Brendan Rice. He's going to get a chance. That might be one game because there's 2 injuries, and if he can't get open, then he never gets another chance. But, like, he's going to get a shot, I assume. I think him and Cornelius Johnson both will get shots.
Yep.
Don't know what it looks like, but you never know. Week 17, it could be one of those where one of these 2 rookies is going to be our 4th receiver going forward, and we want to play them instead of DJ Chark, or we've already written off Quentin Johnston at that point. So, anyway, that's it.
I appreciate you, man. I like your squad.
I know. Normally, I don't say
that is very freaking.
I like on the stream, but we may look back on this one. July 10th, 2024, UPW 7.0 with Dwain. You can follow him at Dwain McFarland on X. All his stuff at Fantasy Life. He's way more famous than me If you're not following
whatever.
him, but you know me, then I don't know what you're doing. But check out all his stuff. Anything you want to talk about? You want to talk real quick about the new premium service that you guys just launched?
Yeah.
Do you want to plug that? I mean, I looked at it. It looks awesome.
So we've got,
shout it out, man.
Yeah, man. Fantasy Life Plus just launched on this Monday. We are super excited about it. We've added over 30 new tools to the site that are all part of this. There will be some new utilization tools coming as well. We just kicked off the design and everything on those today. So we'll be building those out and getting them ready for the season now. But man, like if you're doing some home leagues and stuff like that, and you're looking to do mock draft simulators, all of that kind of stuff. Also, my rankings and tiers article on wide receivers just dropped on Tuesday, and I go way in depth around talent, opportunity, age, situation, how much all those things matter, historically for fantasy. And then I pull all that together in like one nice little sweet picture for you. And then I tier out all the players, and I also use ADP because I think we need to lean into the market, especially when we've got a place like Underdog where we've got all these drafts. So got that up. Tight end tiers will then drop. So yeah, you guys go over, check it out. fantasylife.com.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate you coming on. It was a blast drafting with you. Good luck to both of our squads. Shout out to Ray. We didn't even go over Ray's team.
Shout out Ray.
Maybe he'll talk about it on his next show, just about the thought process of drafting live. It's more difficult to draft live than it is to just sit back, especially when you are watching everybody else draft and he's hearing us talk about what we're doing and he's just sitting right in between us going, oh, that might be a good idea to take Kyler there. That might be a good idea to snipe Scott on Brian Thomas. But anyway, till next time, another good guest next week for a draft. Thank you to Dwain for coming on, and we'll sign off. See ya.